Well, we're back from the break and you're watching Smart Means Business. It's 6 minutes off the hour of 9 o'clock. And of course, it's already 1 hour back since the Zabo markets opened. So you can utilize this time, use the USSD code *292#, kickstart off your investment journey today. Zabo, a platform by Altex East Africa, says my money, my future, will definitely be a reason for you to at least give yourself a chance to ably understand what is coming in from these particular markets. Well, investing in Uganda's market space and make it very easy for you as an investor and for you as someone who wants to see something, especially if you want to grow your investment journey. Well, now the entire space is basically rotating around investing into Uganda's financial market space, so it gives you the ultimate chance for you to utilize that particular course. Well, Zabo, platform by Altex East Africa, my money, my future. Opening time is 8:15 a.m. and the closing time is 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. These markets are closed on public holidays and during the weekends. Zabo, my money, my future. Altex East Africa says, do something new. Well, now with our insight this morning, we look at the East African community integration in perspective. Where are the benefits of this economic integration for the East African community member states? And also, is there a need for a common currency that most of the East African community countries are pushing for? And also, there is also a need to clear some of the policies to govern this entire integration. We have more of this one in this insight.
Common market is easier to discuss and talk about because you can see the timeline, sometimes they get revised. Because you're literally saying, can we get to a level where we have no taxes or very low tax rates amidst the member countries, and then a common external tariff out there to block or at least to make it costly for goods outside the region, give advantage to those producing within the region. But this is a story we have been having for quite some time. There are countries which would say these are sensitive products. Because there are those windows, even when we say for goods coming from outside the EAC will raise the taxes, a member country has the right to say these goods are very critical to me, or trade with this particular country is very central to me, and so you impose a kind of most favored nation trading status where you attract lower rates. We have seen those persist longer than maybe they should have. We have seen that list of sensitive products remain quite large. Now those begin to limit the advantages of you being a member, but at least it doesn't stop the trajectory towards a common market. You still work towards that, set your timelines, say the rates will keep going down year after year until they hit zero or they hit an agreed very low level. That's something feasible within the medium, maybe to slightly early long term, but the common market is still quite a distance away. I mean, the common currency is still quite a distance away for many reasons, really, because the currency speaks to a number of other integrated policies. You're talking of what is our debt position, what is our exchange rate policies, and we see a lot of variations within the region. You want to see the commitment for fiscal adherence, discipline, financial discipline, budget discipline. So it comes with a number of other stringent parameters, and we do not see many countries committing to that within the next decade, at least to get to a level where you can say we'll cross the line. We have seen teething problems in the European Union when they introduced the euro. A number of countries really suffered with the introduction of the euro. They have limped on, but because they have bigger, larger economies, they can even pick up a member who seems to be failing. We saw Greece being picked up and supported by the European Union. They have a strong central bank. The same thing happened with Italy, Spain, Iceland. We saw them trying to pull up those member countries and support them to pull through, but because they have big financial muscle. Now here we're still struggling on, so it will be certainly slow progress towards the common currency. Currency is sometimes a bit of pride, regional pride. because it still doesn't stop people trading, especially when you have a common currency in quotes like the dollar, which is acceptable across all the different countries. So you already have a common currency if it is for purposes of facilitating a medium of exchange. That one is already covered, it's not a problem. But the other one is trying to remove maybe foreign exchange transaction costs and barriers and build confidence. So there are roles that it plays, minimal roles in today's world where you can, even now we are going into digital payments. It doesn't matter which currency I'm using to pay, because the cash will no longer be so much of an issue. So we might get to a level where common currency is no longer the main thing to pursue, but rather acceptable means of exchange in between countries, which would be digital, which can be electronic, which can be an international currency. We're also seeing tensions at global level between the dollar. Should we, can the world continue using the dollar? Should we revert to use the gold? Should we find another combination of currencies? We have seen Bitcoin also coming up. They have hit their snags. We expected them to have that, because any currency not regulated and not backed up by any reserves or gold is really floating vegetation. Anything can happen to it. But it was a good gamble, it was a good investment, still unfolding. We hope they will be able to plug the whole loopholes, because it has also made progress for the world today. You don't want to undermine the contribution of Bitcoin in the global economy in the last maybe 5-10 years of its presence, and its continued presence still to be around. I'm sure they can do some cleaning, but the digital currencies is another aspect that is coming up, and the East African communities slowly but progressively, consciously really, trying to walk towards digital currencies. And with those, one will still wonder what value a common currency would add, and what really conversation one should pursue along that. But it's always a nice thing to have when central bank governors sit and they are making comparisons and commitments really. But as we've said, the commitments are more on the fiscal side, your deficit ratios, your exchange rate policies, your levels of reserves, because all these determine the strength of the currency. So you don't want a member country's reserves to go down and to undermine the entire currency across the system. And if you do not have a strong central bank for the region to beef up the weaknesses arising from that weaker member country, it can be very complicated. Economic integration is, the word would be, it's economic integration. You're trying to integrate your economies, but there are usually many other aspects around an economy that make up an economy. And we have seen slower progress in those areas of integration. But by and large, countries that are closer to each other have a lot to benefit by way of integrating their economies. Now, there are many theories which, of course, can be tested on whether they have come through. Because some people will say there are companies that might be operating at a certain scale to be profitable. So I can't set up in Uganda if I'm not sure that I can sell beyond Uganda. So such companies would be able to set up if they begin to look at the reduced transaction costs across borders, looking at protection. As we say, there's a common external tariff that's possibly higher, so they would scale up their production looking at the region. Now, you may run a disadvantage as a country, individual country, depending on your own cases, on whether such countries will choose to be within Uganda, or they may choose to say, I'll set up camp in Kenya but supply the region. But the immediate jobs and maybe use of raw materials will be where they are located. Now you want to begin looking at those dynamics. How do they play out? And I think these are some of the areas that we haven't studied well, that since we opened up the East African community in around 1999, what kind of industries have we seen coming in as a result of the integration? Because there are those that will come. MTN came not mainly because there was an integration. many others will come. The East African crude oil pipeline, oil investments are invested, not because there is an East African community, but they may stand to benefit from that integration. So we may want to look back and say what kind of industries are coming in, responding to integration. And there hasn't been adequate deliberate policy to bring the full reality of integration, really. You talk of tourism. You still have tour and travel companies that are not regional. Only I think NSSF and a few have tried to reach out and invest in the other areas, but even them it was push rather than attraction, because they have so much money and they have limited spaces where to invest it here. So they go and invest across the border in the listed companies. So the benefits of the economic integration are still neither here nor there. A lot of them are still at potential. We do not even seem to have a common decision-making point that would give somebody that confidence. I know now you can use a Ugandan national ID to go to Kenya, and I think to go to Rwanda and maybe Burundi, but not yet in Tanzania, not yet DRC, South Sudan is not clear out there. And yet these will be the benefits. There are also other benefits of saying I can work across the border. So if I do establish a chain of an insurance company, if I do establish a chain of medical facilities, how easy can I move my best doctor who is in Rwanda to go and serve for a week or do an operation in Kenya? Or move from Kenya, go and do an operation at my branch in Burundi or in Tanzania without being required to have a work permit. Because those are some of the challenges you do face. We are a landlocked country. Here people driving cars, just to drive a car from the border into Uganda, they will be charged in some countries to say, oh, you are working while you are driving the car, so you need a work permit. And the work permit in that case is not the 3 days you're driving the car, it might be a whole 3 months. So you end up paying for, unless it is your regular work, you end up paying for more days than you really needed. So there's still a lot of political commitment to drive the technical aspects that really make an integration a reality for people to feel it. But that said, also we shouldn't forget that some integration do not have to be at a regional level. We have seen America make agreements with Australia, China with Australia. America has strong links with the European Union, with Britain across the Atlantic. So Uganda should begin to look at these options on where can I also do an economic, semblance of an economic integration with more distant but forthcoming viable economies. I'm glad to know that we have had an agreement with Saudi Arabia for our people to go and work there. It hasn't worked very well, but we hope the recent withdrawal will allow it to be cleaned up. Now, you want more of those arrangements. What arrangements do we have with the European Union? What arrangement do we have with Britain? What arrangement do we have with China? And maybe India? So we need to say integrating two economies does not have to be bound to geographical proximity, but rather a business case and a business interest. That's why we talk about the most favored trading nation status. That nation can be so far away from you, but they have a vital resource you need from them, and possibly you have a vital resource they need from you. So we need to broaden that conversation. I don't know whether it will be packed in the Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Finance, or Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or because now it's not necessarily the Ministry of East African Affairs. We may want to redefine a desk in the Ministry of East African Affairs, Trade and Finance and Foreign Affairs to begin looking at these opportunities. And they are easy to identify. Where do Ugandans go to trade? Where do they export? Where do they import? You begin those conversations and then you root them in. You may not call it an integration, maybe some bilateral arrangements, but we need to look through those things because the main thing about integration is you benefit by having a formal working relationship with other economies. Whether next to you or far away from you, that should be the guiding principle, that we get benefits, economic benefits, by having a formal working relationship with other economies out there. where there are commonalities of interests really.
Well, that is it for the S&B Insights. Now we're heading into the story preview as we're looking forward to understanding more from the business today. But now we're going to be looking at electricity vandalism. One of the reports that ran in yesterday's bulletin here on Smart 24 TV regarding electricity infrastructure vandalism, which is actually costing the government and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development lots of money due to the fact that lots of money has been invested into the entire electricity sector. But then if you're vandalizing this particular infrastructure, then you're making it worse for electricity generation, or I would say electricity supply is the better word, supply of electricity to different areas, and of course leading to the ongoing load shedding that you know of. And with me here, I'm joined by Samla Hanifa this particular morning to take us through this particular situation and what is lying ahead of Uganda, where the risks are, and what is behind the closed doors in regards to what the legislators think of this. Yes, Samla Hanifa, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Okay, yesterday we had a report regarding electricity infrastructure vandalism. And of course, the Ministry of Energy has for the last few months been coming out to set up initiatives reminding Ugandans that, well, this is costing us billions in regards to replacing this infrastructure. That is why sometimes we have load shedding in most parts of the country. And not only that, we end up finding challenges whereby rural areas don't get electricity.
Yeah, it is true. It is terrible what is happening in the country right now as far as the vandalism is concerned.
Okay.
Look at the situation where the country borrows money and puts in electricity.
Okay.
Electricity has to be distributed to parts of the country. But then the machinery, the poles, the towers are brought down. This electricity does not reach to the specific people it's supposed to go to.
Okay.
And at first they thought it is the people who deal in scrap are the ones involved, because that is how it looked. They were stealing the wires that distribute the electricity to where it is supposed to be, it's supposed to go. And then bringing down a tower, it is something else. It is different. It is no longer a scrap thing. It is something different and very scary. The people who are involved are so daring. Look at that tower that is being brought down. And one tower alone costs 300 million shillings. You cannot bring down a tower alone and other two or three don't follow. Because when you bring down one tower, these towers are connected. When you bring down a tower, the other three also go down. And this affects the system back at the Jagali and Owen Falls. Jagali is now the Owen Falls. So this load shedding we've been experiencing as a country is because of such acts, such things that are happening. It is costing the country billions and billions of shillings. MPs wonder, legislators wonder, who is behind this and why is it happening? Because now the towers are brought down, but they are not taken. It is no local person can dare to do such a thing.
Okay.
It has to be an inside job.
And it is something that everyone is looking at deeply, trying to understand. If you look at the tower, unless there are close to 10 individuals who are putting it down.
Exactly. Putting down that tower. Okay, these people are, I don't know how to call them, but they are daring. How can you bring down that big thing? No local person who deals in scrap can dare. It has to be someone who knows how to bring down a tower. Maybe someone who was involved in putting up the tower is the same person that is involved in bringing it down. Because who doesn't fear that electricity, of course, it kills, and you can't, you as an ordinary person, you can't get into it.
Have we ever
But,
thought about the issue to do with the fact that maybe it's due to also some natural uncertainties that can lead to it, or the towers themselves are weak, or it doesn't happen?
that is not possible.
Oh, okay.
That is not
So
possible.
it's individual.
It is individual, and according to legislators,
Okay.
these are people who are trying to put up a message to government that we are here to cripple the economy.
Okay.
Because when these towers are affected, when they are brought down, electricity doesn't get to industries. That industries they do not perform. Maybe they have an estimate of production, which does not take place because there's no power. When you remember the days when the whole country goes into a blackout.
Yeah.
It's because of such acts. Now the Natural Resources Committee, the MPs, you see them there, they have gone to the scene to see what exactly is happening in the country, what is this happening, and the UDCL people are like, this is what is happening to us now. We don't know who is involved, but the president gave a strong message to the culprits that he even laughed about it. Like, how can someone do such a thing and expect not to be caught? These people must be apprehended soon. Something must be done.
As we're summing up, how much will a tower cost if you look at what the regulators say?
A tower, one tower costs 300 million shillings. Over 300 million shillings, and you can't even say that it's exactly 300 million shillings.
There are lots of other charges attached to putting it up there.
Exactly.
The human resource and all that.
And you look at last year, from September, October, November, over 47 towers were brought down. This affected of course. Right now, we are, as a country, we are expecting the project of Karuma to kickstart. But most of the towers there have been brought down. So this project won't kickstart. It won't. They are expecting it to start operating, but it cannot. The Karuma Dam cannot start operating with such acts being done, and the offenders do not stop at it there. Just the Christmas season alone, over 9 towers were brought down in this period.
Okay.
So it is something that is serious, and the people who are doing it are serious. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And of course, it's still worrying the nation because, as a matter of fact, Uganda continues to lose a lot of money due to electricity infrastructure fund. So that has been our story preview this morning, and surely we'll be doing it tomorrow same time with another report. Samla Hanifa does bring to you more reports in tonight's bulletin with Business Today. After the break, Smart Means Business will be continuing with the on-ground discussions. Good morning.
Thank you.